Hey there. Hopefully my sinus congestion isn't too distracting. I don't have too long, but I'm just considering relationships. And I know I shared a testimony of how my relationship came to be. I'm not sure actually if I shared this part. So here's a quick little side note in case I didn't share it in the testimony. So my husband and I started as friends. We met in high school. I was a freshman and I actually had a crush on a guy. It sounds silly to talk about crushes when you're in your 40s, but at that point I was a high school girl and I, like I said, I had a crush on a guy. And I was at the mall with a friend of mine and we ran into this guy and his friend. And, my husband and I both talk about this initial interaction. They were typical boys, so to speak. There were fountains in the mall, and they proceeded to jokingly pick us up and try to throw us into the fountains. So we were very much teenagers at that point. But long story short, my husband and I became friends, and we were friends all through high school. And I do remember I had no idea what relationships really were meant to look like at that point. I was very just, oblivious. And I don't think that that's abnormal, especially at that age. When you're a teenager, you're not really thinking of longevity. You're just looking at people for who they are. And truly, you might not even know who you are at that point. But you do have certain nudges one way or another. And I have looked back and I could just say without a doubt that God provided for me safety nets along the way as I was making my silly choices, being foolish as can be. I can look back and say, wow, God really provided for me in ways that I had no idea at the time, but I can look back and say he was protecting me and providing for me that safety net. So with that said, I do remember telling my friends, I had a certain type, and usually they weren't the nice guys when we were in high school. I had a couple relationships actually with really, really, really nice guys who treated me really, really well. And for some reason, I couldn't stand them for long. And because of me, it was whatever was going on in my mind. I just wasn't into the relationships, and I didn't want to, lead guys on, so to speak. So I would just break off the relationship and move on. And I remember, I would tell my friends, this sounds terrible, but it is true. It's just a part of my story. So it's one of those things that it is what it is. I would tell my friends, I have a feeling I'm going to marry this man someday. But I hope I'm wrong because he's not my type. That's what I said. And I'm sorry, because clearly he was my type because I ended up marrying him. With that said though, at that time I had no idea what my type was. And I think what I want to encourage today with this silly little story that is embarrassing. It actually makes me blush when I talk about how I had a feeling I was going to marry my husband someday, but I was hoping I was wrong because he wasn't my type. And I'm not sure what my type was at that point. And he was phenomenal. He was one of those good people who would fight for the little guy. He would be the one who would, go after the bullies in high school. And he was hardworking and had a noble upbringing. So truly, he ended up being a really great match for me. After we got married, I realized these things, of course. And have we had trials and struggles over the years? Yes. But the thing that my marriage has done in hindsight, it has grounded me. It has taught me many things. And it's also taught me that when the going gets tough, you don't walk away. Okay? So, but anyways, all of that aside, my encouragement is to figure out who you are. And this doesn't have to be a 20-year process, okay? So for me, it took becoming a mom and being a mom for 20 years to figure out who I actually am. And you can look back over your years and look at things that, good things that you would normally be attracted to. I'll say, you know, for me, I've always had a desire to decorate and make a home livable. I used to draw houses when I was younger. In my passing time, I would literally sit down and draw like home elevations and floor plans. And you know, that's still something to this day that brings me a lot of joy. I love decorating my home to make it feel like a home, to make it comfortable and livable. So thinking about then versus now, I could say you're a person that wants to make a house a home. So figuring out who you are and then figuring out who you'll bring into your life that will help you be the best version of yourself. A lot of times we seek people that tell us what we want to hear. And I will say, I might have enjoyed that when I was younger, but as an adult now who's in my 30s, or not, I'm not in my 30s, I'm in my 40s. I'm an established adult who wants to be more accountable for the choices that I make, because I do believe that the choices we make, they hold weight for our future. So I want to be around people then, right now, who will hold me accountable to do the right things and to do things in my life and my day-to-day living that will benefit myself and my family in the long run. So when you're thinking about relationships, and it really depends on your age, because like I said, in my teen years, I didn't really want to hear those types of things. I thought I knew everything, because we have a little bit of an invincibility about ourselves at that age. So depending on where you are age-wise today, this is something that maybe you can consider. I'm considering people who are just about to get into a more serious relationship. And these are the types of things you want to figure out. Figure out who you are and figure out who you want to surround yourself with. And then here's the kicker. Find out if the things that you're implementing are biblical. Take out your Bible, look into certain subjects of curiosity at various points in your life, and check it out. See if where you're going with things, if it's biblical, if it goes along with God's design, most likely it will end up working in your favor. But if it's going against God's design, it could very well do things that destroy future opportunities. So we can either implement good things in our life that are building up, or we could essentially, kind of fall apart at the seams, so to speak. So these are things that are important, and we want to pay attention to those things. I think that's all I've got. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else that went through my mind that would be beneficial to this video. I'll use my marriage as an example. My husband and I, actually, what's interesting is I'm going through a period in my life where I'm realizing my love language has changed. I am a stay-at-home mom, and I spend a lot of time by myself, especially now because all my kids are in school. And actually very recently, I would have stated that my love language was acts of service. And I actually think that in one of these most recent videos, I had said something about how I feel guilty when people do things for me. So I don't quite understand how it works where you can feel loved by something that essentially makes you feel guilty. Well, that actually triggered in me a thought process that had me reevaluating what my love language is. My love language currently is quality time. I would benefit from having people in my home, and I was having a conversation with my husband about that just this weekend. Because he's so busy with work, we don't get a lot of quality time together, and I spend time feeling like I'm lacking companionship. And even when I'm with my kids, you know, they're at the point where they're not really working to get to know me very well because they're at stages in their life where they're trying to figure themselves out, right? So then you've got the situation where you know, you're like, okay, well, what's suiting you then? And like I said, my suitability is coming to the conclusion that I prefer quality time. If somebody would come and sit with me while I'm doing dishes, and I did say the ideal would be that you would be rubbing my shoulders while I do the dishes or doing the dishes alongside me. But at the very, very least, if you want me to feel loved while I'm doing dishes in the kitchen, you'll just come and sit with me and we'll talk about our day. I think that would be wonderful. So I'm learning my love language would be quality time. And then we went further into this conversation. Hold on. And the way we were talking, I was just, again, what makes for a biblical marriage and what doesn't, and then how does it check out between the two. So that's what I want to encourage you. Figure out who you are. Who did God create you to be, and who did God what did God create you to do? We have spiritual gifts in our life. If you don't know what yours are, there are assessments all over the internet that you can look into and take those assessments. And then what kind of relationships do I want to be in? And then have rich conversations with the people in your life. And they may be a little standoffish at first, but you'll come to realize that a lot of people, once you get over that hump of awkwardness, people do tend to enjoy having richer conversations. Sometimes they just don't know how to go about doing it. So become one of those people that draws that out of people, and you're going to end up in much richer relationships. And then, like I said, check it with the Bible, because ultimately, if we are doing things in a way that is seeking God's design, you really can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but, you know, there's power there in knowing the proper order of how things work and how they were designed, because we are designed to thrive in God's ways. That's how our whole body is designed, and we have much more peace in us when we're doing things that way. And you may or may not realize it, but once you come to realize it, you'll understand God has our best interest in mind for us. So he's not going to do things that are going to destroy us. He does things and designs things the way that will help us thrive. And life opens up for you when you open yourself up to that mentality. So I will leave you with that. I'm about to go let some dogs outside and get about my day as I go pick up a farm delivery in the complete opposite direction of this little errand. So that's what I'm up to today. And I'm pondering things, of course, as always, as I'm driving. So I figured I'd come and share it with you. Hope you're having a good Monday, and we will talk soon. Bye.